Well, in this little project for the greenhouse we're going to be working on, we're going to make the louvers for the end here, where these holes are, where I've got this screen wire taped across, taped up over the holes to keep bugs and stuff from flying in. So anyway, that's what we're going to be working on. I tossed around several ideas and finally just decided to go ahead and make them. And I had some wood material left over that I scavenged, so I'm repurposing this lumber. This was left over from a deck project I did 2 or 3 years ago. It's redwood, and I salvaged some of the material, and so that's what we're going to be using to make these 2 louvers. So we'll get started on that right now. Alright, so we're back in the shop now. Get out of the elements outside. A pretty healthy breeze is blowing out there today as the storm front's passing through. But anyway, this is what we're going to be doing right here. We're going to be making these louvers, and I'm going to show you how I do that. It's really nothing real complicated, and it doesn't have to be something that's really pretty, because it's going to be on the back side of the greenhouse. So as I said, the material is redwood. Now it's not cedar, but actual California redwood, and I scavenged this out of a deck that I tore down and rebuilt for a gentleman close to town here. And so we're going to start by making the material for these slats. And for that, I had some pieces of 4x4 that I salvaged out of that deck, and I'm going to resaw the 4x4s down into 3/16 inch thick slats. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, now that we've got the slats cut out, got the material anyway for them, they have to be cut to length, but we also have to put this angle. Ouch, stuck a splinter in my finger. This angle here, see where they come down? So we're going to go to the joiner, and I'll show you how to put this angle on both edges. So the next thing we got to do is we've got to make these sides with notches, grooves in them for the slats to fit into. And so we got to make 2 matched pairs. And so they're going to come out looking with a piece like this right here. So I'm going to show you how that we mill these grooves in these pieces to create the side pieces for this louver. Okay, now that I've run my material through the planer, taking it down to 3/4 of an inch thickness, I need to cut out the sides that will create the box for the louver. And I just picked an angle that I thought would work and transferred that angle to a T-bevel and laid this on the fence right here and eyeballed. That's a technical term now, eyeballed. I eyeballed it here and lined the blade up with the angle that I want. And so now I'm just going to cut these to length. These will be cut 24 inches long, which will fit, it will match the height of the openings. This will create the sides, and this will be the bottom, and there'll be a piece go across the bottom. Like this. We cut the width and beveled, cut the angles on it, slope, and the top will actually slope as well. Trick here is to not drop the nut. I'm going to install this dado bit, wobble dado, and the reason it's called a wobble dado is because it wobbles. How about that? But you dial in the width of your cut on this dial right here before you install it. And our slats are 3/16 of an inch thick. So if you can read that upside down, we'll go 3/16. Now this right here is a trick. Trying to tighten up this nut, and you have to hold the blade with a stick and hope it doesn't change the setting, because Craftsman really made a mistake here in not having a flat spot on the shaft so that you could use 2 wrenches. There was a real brainstorm on them there. Alright, we'll see how this works. Alright, let's give that a go. depth is great, 3/8 of an inch. And the width, looks like it might be a heavy 3/16. And find one of my slats. Yeah, it's a little bit loose. A little bit. Okay, this is really the only tedious part of this little project. The setup of this and the math. Dividing this off because the 3/16 groove that this dado cuts becomes 1/4 of an inch because it's on an angle. And so I'm going to have 10 slats. So 10 times 1/4 of an inch is 2.5, and it's 24 inches from here to the other end. So I have to subtract that from 24. That leaves me 22.5. Excuse me, 21.5. So then I have to divide the 21.5 by 11 because 10 slats create 11 spaces. Okay. And so that, according to the calculator, says is 1 inch and 31/32. That's 1/2 16th shy of 2 full inches. So 1 inch and 31/32. So that's the spacing. All right. So I've laid off where the first slot will be, and you can see that I've installed an auxiliary fence here on the miter gauge. And so I've got to make a cut right here, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so you can see that I've created the groove there, but I got to create a whole bunch more and then 3 more pieces. So a whole lot of repetition. So you see what I've done right there. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see what I've made. Okay, now I'll have to shift my fence that way, and that way this cleat, or the slot rather, will fit on the cleat for the next spacing. Okay, so I've got the peg in there. I shifted the auxiliary fence down that way, and I could have done it this way first, but I had to cut a notch in the board anyway, in the auxiliary fence. And you put that peg in there, you can slide this piece right over against that, and it lines up perfectly. And you make the cut, which I've got to do that, and then you set the notch that you just made over the cleat, and you have an automatic spacing for the next slot, and it's just repeat over and over and over and over. can see my math wasn't just exactly right. This is just a tiny bit less than the others. Well, actually, yeah, it's, wow, boy, it's close. It's off by about 3/32 of an inch. But the accuracy of the calculator was a 32nd, so that's the best that it could figure. The closest that it could figure without going to 64th, which I wasn't going to fool with that. Like I said, this is not rocket science, but this is the only tedious part, is getting the math, the spacing, and then setting up the auxiliary fence with the little peg at the cleat at the right spacing to do all this repetition. This is how you could do finger joints on drawers. I built my master bedroom furniture, and all the drawers were finger jointed, and I spent one whole day doing nothing but this right here, cutting finger joints. And then the next day I spent all day doing nothing but painting glue on those fingers and putting those drawers together. Talk about 2 monotonous days, but it turned out a nice project. I mean, I'll insert a picture as we go along. Anyway, just 3 more of these and we'll have the sides done. One little detail that I forgot to mention, actually I didn't, to be truthful, I didn't realize it because I'd never done this on an angle. You have to cut half of them one way, reverse the angle, cut the other side so that they will match. So anyway, here we go. See, that way you have a matched pair. Alright, one more and we'll have the sides done. Okay, and then, of course, we have to make the top and bottom of the pair of louvers. And again, this is 3/4 inch material, but it has to be beveled. So we come up with a piece looking like this. And all this, you know, the angle matches for the slope that I've chose, which again, the slope is arbitrary. I just picked something that worked for me. There's no formula or anything. I just picked what looked good to me and run with it. Okay, again, this is very simple. I just transferred the angle of the T-bevel to the saw blade. Set the width right here. Mark the slope right there just so I could check it. And we got to cut a slope on these. Alright, to cut the width of the tops and the bottoms, again, this is not rocket science. Just line this up like that, transfer the mark for the width, because I wanted, especially on the top, I didn't want the end grain to be exposed to the weather, so that'll just go on there just like that, and the bottom will come on there like that. Okay, the width of my opening is 21 inches, and so the thickness of two of the material, one on either side, 1.5 inches, or three quarter is 1.5 inches. So that gives us 22.5 inches. And so I've already trimmed this in square, so cut them all to length. Boy, that redwood dust is hard on the sinuses. Almost makes it worthwhile to wear a mask. Almost. And of course, then assembly, we just put the slats in the grooves, all the slots, and these are just screwed together. You can see here, and it's like this, top and bottom. Nothing complicated. They're just screwed together. Okay. And this is just followed up with some simple assembly. And then the last thing that we did in finishing this off was to stretch this screen wire over the outside. Typically on a louver, the screen is on the inside, but I wanted this on the outside so that dirt daubers and so forth couldn't get up in here and build nests and clog up and make a mess in here. This way this keeps everything out. And then just to staple or nail these little strips on over top of the screen wire, and then it's ready to install. I was going to wrap my screen wire over the back side of the louver, which is usually how they're done, but since these louvers are not going to be up in the gable end of a $1 million log house, so it doesn't really matter what they look like. I'm putting it on the front. That'll keep dirt daubers and whatnot from getting back in the slats and building nests. Let's see. Tack these things down here, and then I'll put a cover strip on it. Hey Eddie Grego, did you ever solve the mystery of the missing electric stapler? When we come out of New Orleans, somehow this got left on my van. This is yours. I'll mail it back to you if you want it. But it is yours, or I'll send you payment for it. Whatever makes you happy, my friend. Hope you are doing well. And then we'll put these back on. I put these on originally to hold the slats in, keep them from falling out, any loose ones anyway. But I'll put them back on now, apply it right over top of the screen. Alright, I gotta cut two to go right in here, so I'll be right back. And I've turned around to get the top. One thing I've done that I didn't show you was I put the nailing fin on it, which is just 3/4 of an inch and a half. That's very simple there. No point in wasting your time to showing you that. Screwed in from the back. And here's our top piece, and I put the angle on it so it shed water. There we go. We have 2 completed louvers. Doesn't look half bad, does it? There we go. 2 completed louvers. And keep the bugs from getting in, keep the dirt daubers from getting back in the slats in the building. And all we gotta do is install them. And so this shows us that a little project like this is it's not difficult, especially when you have a really high-tech drawing, a really detailed drawing like this right here.